we are here at the beginning of August and we are going to do a garden tour. So we're starting over here in the shadiest part of our annual beds, and this is my pride and joy and something I have dreamed of doing for so many years. This is my indigo. This is Japanese indigo, Persicaria tinctoria, which is in the buckwheat family. Here, stay over here, love. And I grew this from seed that came from Roland Ricketts, who is up in Indiana. These two beds are both indigo, but you can see one is like super lush and flourishing and the other one's looking a little scanty. I actually started all of these from seed at the same time, but these went into the ground several weeks earlier than these did. And I also mulched them and have also harvested from them once. And I think all of that together has just made this bed much, much happier. But I mean, these are still, you know, giving me pigment. And I'm actually today working on my first indigo pigment extraction, trying to get the famous blue dye out of these green leaves. And so I'll be documenting that elsewhere. We ended up with a lot of orange flowers in the garden, which orange is not necessarily my favorite color, but they're so happy against the green. So this really pretty, some sort of ember marigold came from our friend Eric, who had started it, started a little cutting for us. And we have our tomatoes. I think all these tomato transplants came from the farm at church, the farm at New Garden Park. And we put Swiss chard underneath them, and they have done beautifully, even in the summer heat.
Why do I have that thing in mine?
In case you need shade later. And so these are all mostly sun gold tomatoes and some Roma. And even though we worried, you want to get some for our supper, even though we worried that maybe they weren't getting enough sun, they've given us plenty of tomatoes and still have a lot of fruit on the vine. Over here, we've got another tomato plant and some of my Tulsi basil, which...
Daddy!
Yeah, Daddy! Butterfly! You want to show Daddy the butterfly? Yeah, there's pollinators everywhere. You can literally hear the buzz and drone of all the bees when you come out in the morning. But Tulsi is doing well, really well. That also was from seed. Then we have purple hull peas over here. And then, Stephen, what did you put on the other side?
Those are black-eyed peas.
Black-eyed peas. So my purple hull peas are starting to get nice big pods with just a hint of purple. They were getting eaten up by aphids earlier this week, but...
What did you do for the aphids?
I mixed the things that my husband told me to. EM1, spinosad, and horticultural oil. Mm-hmm. And then that goopy brown stuff.
But the first thing you did was...
Oh, I sprayed them with a hose and just like power washed the aphids off of them, and that helped a lot.
Kind of give them a restart.
Mm-hmm. And then we come into the beginnings of... we have so many squash in this garden right now. These are blue Hubbard squash. They've got a little bit of powdery mildew on them, but our friend Lena, who's an experienced farmer in this area, said not really to worry about it. I think that's the squash that I dug the vine borer out of yesterday. But except for the leaves that had already died, it seems to be perking back up a little bit. But
can you show us the butternut squash?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're starting to get big.
How about some blue Hubbards?
They might. I think they're easier to see on the other. There's one way back there. They're not blue yet. Way back at the bottom, over there.
I got these tomatoes.
You got some tomatoes for me?
Right here.
Okay.
This one right there.
Oh yeah, there you go. It's starting to look a little bit blue. And then coming down here, I put some flowers. Oh, there's a bumblebee. These I harvested a lot of these this morning, and the new ones aren't open, but you can see over there. These are cosmos.
But this isn't open yet.
Yeah, they're not open. That one's not open yet. But these can actually be used as a dye flower. People like to use them for eco printing. I prefer to make a dye bath and use them for yarn. And I had some Coreopsis here. I have some Coreopsis here, which in Texas just grows everywhere as a wildflower and as a great dye plant, but it has not put out a single flower. So I'm not sure if it's going to flower or not, but I'm getting tons and tons of cosmos. Whatever the reason, this is like a Dollar General seed packet that has produced a very, very large stand of cosmos. This is, we've walked totally past. We have our basil. It's still doing pretty well. Getting munched on by something and also sort of brutalized by the children in harvesting from it. Peppers. that are still lots and lots of flowers on the peppers. Let's not pick any of that just yet. This is our kale, which, although quite eaten, is still doing okay. And I need to actually cook some. And then we have our bell peppers over here, which are really starting to begin to turn red. That one's looking nice, and I should probably pick that one today.
I think because we planted these in an area that's a little bit more shaded because of our crepe myrtles in the morning sun is coming up right over here. We're not getting the sun skull that you get in a lot of peppers this time of the year.
This is more butternut squash right here. And then we have corn, watermelon, cantaloupes, and butterfly pea vine climbing up. Oh, and I said cantaloupes, yeah. And so those have all started growing out onto the tarp.
So how did we grow the butternut squash?
I actually started all the butternut squash on paper towels, germinated the seeds, and then put them in pots, and then we transplanted them, which I've read that squash don't actually love to be transplanted, but these have all done fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we also trellis these. So you can see our trellis pole, how bent it is now. That was straight when we got it in the ground, and we were working with string, and we were just trellising them up string, and every time they would grow up a shoot, we would draw a string. We would tie a string to the kind of the top bar that went across, and then draw that down to the squash tip, and then in that way they were being trellised up and pulled up. And now they've completely pulled it down, but you can see it's not all over the ground. We're able to walk over here versus the way that we've grown our cantaloupe and our watermelon over there where they're growing out into a great distance. And so we're able to continue to have walkways over here. This right here, catch it without my finger. We basically, did your classic no-till sweet potatoes. So we put about 6 inches of soil down and then popped our sweet potatoes on top and then added more soil on top of that. Then as they grew up, we hilled it even more. We hilled up the sweet potatoes even more. And you can see they're gloriously happy. We've done very little. We've had to water twice in the last 2 weeks, which is wonderful. It's a virtue of the North Carolina rain. You can see, again, this is the native soil. This is what it looks like when you water as much as we do. We didn't do anything for this area over here, so it's just doing what it would have done naturally without being mowed. And you can see that
got some pokeweed growing up right there.
Some pokeberry. So if you look down at your feet, Bethany, we put coffee grounds down, coffee burlap down. These bags that we found at a garden store that was just giving them away, and I found that those were really good for blocking out the weeds. I'm shocked. I would have thought the weeds would have grown up in and through it, but they really haven't. Of course they're 2 layers thick because they're bags, right? So those are really serving effectively, and we're able to temporarily put those wherever we want them. We can just pull those up, and then when we're ready to make this long-term a permanent walkway, which is what it will be between the fence and this bed over here, then we'll just pull those up. We'll put probably more cardboard down or more tarp down, and then just put mulch on top of that after the grass is dead underneath it. So
it's on the fence again. So we had one loofah vine, which I was hoping to get a lot of loofah this year, but I have not seen a single actual loofah on here. We've had flowers. But the birdhouse gourds, which is most of what's on here, have just really done well and have kind of taken over. Let's see if we can find. A lot of the gourds are actually forming on the other side of the fence. I think they like the shade.
Here's one.
Oh yeah, those are big. Yes. So, and then some of my zinnias finally peeping out.
There's our what our neighbor calls our mountain of pain.
Yeah, this is what's left of the original soil that we bought.
We got 25 cubic yards. Hello.
Morning.
We got 25 cubic yards of soil to start with, and we tried to do about 6 inches of 6 inches thick of soil everywhere for all of our beds.
So while we're over here, I will show my indigo extraction. So those beds of indigo leaves, the way that you get the blue dye out of them is you essentially ferment them. And this one just for an experiment's sake, I'm gonna let over ferment, but I'll show you, I drained off the liquid from the leaves. So these sat in the North Carolina sun for about 24 hours, and you can see just from soaking those green leaves, I got this beautiful kind of turquoise water. And so a little bit later this morning, I will add some pickling lime to this and try to get the pigment to actually precipitate out of it. And then you can see this one still has the leaves in it. And yeah, this one for some reason is giving a much greener color, even though they were harvested at the same time. I basically used the same water and everything. So,
one is in a metal pot and one is in a.
Well, originally they were both in metal pots. Though I had 2 stock pots. I just divided them because it seemed like they'd be crowded. So we're not really sure yet where we want to put our perennial beds, and so we have lots. This has kind of been my little nursery / keeping place for perennial herbs and things. This is all the rest of my Tulsi that I started from seed. I sold some of these. I like, if you come to my house right now, I will give you a Tulsi plant. I'm probably today actually just gonna like chop all of these and hang and dry, although the bees are really loving them. I'll leave a few for seed. But over here we have a lot of things. We have some patchouli that I'm gonna be making a beard oil for Stephen out of.
Excellent.
This is not frost hardy, so I'm keeping it in a pot, so we'll take it in the winter, and it should live 2 or 3 years in the pot from what I've read. We've got some marshmallow, lemon thyme, and my lavender's about to come into flower, pineapple sage, toothache plant, stevia, echinacea, some of my cabbages that I started, red cabbage in particular. These got really leggy, but they seem to be doing okay since I put them in bigger pots.
Lemongrass?
Lemongrass, yes. Huckleberry. I have my tea plant back there, Camellia sinensis. St. John's wort, yarrow, curry plant, fig tree, yellow tea rose, elderberry. Oh, Stephen, look at this. Look how dark these are. I'm gonna fall over.
Wonderful.
Elderberry's getting some nice color. I'm so excited about those.
First year we've actually gotten elderberry out of an elderberry tree.
So I want to take some cuttings from that and also get some cuttings to plant this fall. So anyway, I haven't figured out exactly what design I want for my herb garden, but I'm very excited about making this a permanent, beautiful feature in our larger suburban homestead. So, thanks. Thank you for humoring me.
Here is what is next, because clearly the summer season is spent. There's nothing really coming out of the garden anymore. It's dead. That's a joke. That's what it would look like if it were in Texas. But instead, it is definitely growing. So what I'm thinking about is how can we add on top of this new beds so we can plant our fall garden, because we're not going to be able to fit anything in here because nothing is dying. Everything keeps growing, including our kale, which is crazy that it's still going right now. And the worms have attacked the outside, but it's still growing on the inside. So right here, we've got Bethany's latest planting right here. We got butternut squash, and we got our sugar snap peas.
Seeds right here, and then the ones I had already
seeds
started.
over here. Just added a little extra probiotic to that bed, and the ones that I thinned out for you, Bethany.
Thank you.
We've got a new bed that's going to be coming in right here. You can just picture it. This is where our tarp was. We had the tarp down for about 3 weeks, and like I said, it's not that hot here, but we had that black tarp right there, which we got at Tractor Supply, down here for 3 weeks, and it killed all of the annual grass. So we actually have no grass, but we do have a few of whatever this perennial weed is, but not very much, and that's not very aggressive. So it's amazing. We pick it up, so we don't even need to put down cardboard when we're building here. So I'll be building another bed right here. You can see my string line, which I love to use to keep our bed straight. We've got our corn growing up over there. Imagine where that black tarp is right now. That's a main walkway that's going to take us out to the extension of the garden, the new garden, if you will. And then on the other side of that black tarp is going to be another bed right here. And then we've got our gourds and our pumpkins growing really well. We've got actually some new flowering on our pole beans, which we've not actually gotten to harvest on the pole beans. We planted those late. So this will be our first harvest on the pole beans. We've got a couple different plantings of that over here. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
Sorry, I'm distracted by my gourds.
Yes.
Birdhouse gourds, dipper gourds.
Understandably.
Shaker gourds.
Uh-huh.
Oh, they're the beans.
Yeah, so those are the beans, and you know, they are obviously being hit back by something, maybe spider mites. And then we have more beds that are going to be coming over here. We get morning shade from our crepe myrtles, which, if Bethany will let me, I will shave and create more sunlight over here. We've got this little patch of grass. If you just look down real quick, this is what everything in the garden looked like 3 months ago. So every inch of the garden was on this, and then we put one layer of cardboard and either mulch or soil on top of that, and then built that. So
and we're doing almost no weeding.
And we're doing,
like,
yeah.
I've pulled like 6 weeds all summer.
Yeah, well, I'm pulling about, you know, 3 to 5 minutes worth of weeds a day, and it's very manageable. And we got our tarp down right here. A lot of the pumpkins and the squash and all of our melons are growing onto the tarp. But eventually this tarped area is going to become another section of beds. And so we're going to have straight beds coming out here, running parallel to the corn bed and the other beds we've got right over here. So that's going to be growing out. And then we get a stretch of sunlight between the crepe myrtle and Miss Maggie right here. And in that stretch, we're going to be able to grow a lot of fall vegetables. And so we're going to be planting our carrots out over here. We're planting our cabbage out over here, our broccoli, new plantings of kale, maybe new plantings of Swiss chard, and whatever else does, you know, Bethany's heart desires. And then
Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts, yes, Brussels sprouts. 200 days, long time on the Brussels sprouts. And then we want to just continue to march on into this grass so that I don't have to do any weeding at all. I don't have to do any mowing at all. I've got a garden that is fertile and growing and luscious, and the neighbors love it, and that is really easy to manage.
Beautiful.